We are live from Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District. Welcome to all of you for our show number, what is it, 815?
815, yeah.
On Tuesday, the 11th of March. We've got Mark Reed as our guest, is on a train headed from Chicago to L.A. He's approaching Albuquerque, and we don't have a connection with him at the moment, but maybe we will eventually, Julia.
Yes.
Our tech check, we got interrupted there in the middle as he went through a mountain pass in the approach into Albuquerque Valley, he said.
Yes.
So hopefully that will reconnect. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining us on this special show. A lot going on as things start to warm up, Julia, in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yes.
You know, they sail year-round in the Caribbean, SoCal, and even up here in NorCal, but it's carrying on. Let's carry on with our show notes for today, that I've moved to a little bit different spot rather than that 90-second countdown. Happy Tuesday, and happy the bold look of Kohler Day. Julie, do you know what that is?
No.
Well, it'll become clear in a moment.
Kohler appliances.
Kohler bathroom fixtures.
Yeah, oh yeah. Okay.
And kitchen fixtures. Cyclone Alfred, cabin fever in Brisbane. They're drying out after the wettest weather in decades. Luckily, only one person, I think only one fatality, a soldier giving aid, sadly.
Oh.
Mark Reed, we hope we get a connection with him. He is going to talk about Chicago Yacht Club's Heart of America celebration in the year of that is the club's 150th anniversary, but they've got a big celebration coming up on the 21st of March, and Mark's going to fill us in on that. Hopefully, if not, I'll read part of his script that he sent me. Sail GP, more on the chief, maybe cheap too, hype officer. And there's a terrific Sail GP article in The Athletic, New York Times online sports blog these days. I think the New York Times bought them. Coaching Corner, Super Fozy John Emmett is back in Blighty. He's back in England. He's back home on the farm in front of the Kubota, which is a Japanese tractor, as the Northern Hemisphere sailing season is, as I said a moment ago, warming up. Mm-hmm. News briefs from the J.J. Giltinan, the Bacardi Cup, the IQ Foil Games, and the wrap-up of the Vendée Globe. And then this news, our feature about Gillian Williams, who was the commodore for 7 months of the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. We barely knew you, Gillian. What's happened? Well, we've heard a few things. Finally, a fantastic video from Sail GP in, shall we say, in promo for this, a preview almost of this weekend's action in Los Angeles, where it's going to be very light indeed. And of course, our usual day in history, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, the fantastic Fozy Chat.
Yay.
And more. Julian, any opening thoughts here before we get moving?
No, I look forward to it. We may be breaking history if we actually succeed in broadcasting from train. Train.
Yeah, if we get Mark hooked up, that's a frozen image when we lost connection with him a few minutes ago. But if we do, we've never had a guest on from a train, an Amtrak train moving cross country, but we'll see. Hopefully it will work. Julia, I think we'll go right into this and then see if we get Mark back in a moment. If some of you are confused about the timing, we went on daylight time on Sunday. So here it is, Tuesday. I still say lock the clock. The times they have changed, and not only are they changing for us, but they will be changing for you in Europe, and then for you down under. We are now on daylight time, so for most of you outside of North America, we're an hour earlier than you're used to. Instead of 2100 UTC, we're at 2000 UTC now until we go off daylight time later this year in November. On March 30th.
Not 2000.
Yeah, 2000 UTC. It normally is 20. Normally 2100 UTC is now 2000 UTC. Right. March 30th is when GBR and Europe go on summertime. That'll put us back in sync for an 8-hour or 9-hour time zone difference once you're back on summertime. But then on April 6th, some of Australia and most of New Zealand, maybe all of New Zealand, go off what you call summertime or daylight saving time, and that'll put you back 3, 4, 5 hours and 7 hours, respectively. I wish we would lock the clock, Julia.
I know.
I wish we would lock the clock and stop farting around with the time zones. That anachronistic World War I setup. But that's what's going on. In fact, a wise Native American said only a white man would cut 2 inches from the top of a blanket, sew it to the bottom, and think he now has a longer blanket.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know why we do this. If you need more daylight in your evening, get off work, get out of the office, go out to the lake, go sailing earlier. That's what I got to say. By the way, just plain lock the clock. We're going to keep saying that. Goodbye, daylight savings time. Joe Holtzman is saying one way or the other to kill it. I don't know. Hello, Ed Worley here in NorCal, and James Appel is down in the Bahamas. He must have taken his boat down there. Gordon Smith checking in from Denmark. And welcome to all of you from around the world. If you're watching in replay, it doesn't matter because then you don't care about the time zones and the clock.
Right.
Speaking of Cyclone Alfred, they're drying out in Brisbane and indeed in Queensland. They got more rain than they have in like 15 inches of rain in a very short period of time. Everybody's sort of locked in, waiting for the floods to subside. They have cabin fever, according to The Guardian, and kind of flashbacks to COVID-19.
Well,
how the former tropical cyclone, which is almost dissipated, but it was slow moving, and as it moved in over Brisbane, right on top of Brisbane, it just was slow, and it rained and rained and rained. So the Queensland capital essentially shut down thanks to, this article's not old. It's only 7 or 8 hours ago that this article popped up on the internet. To some of the wettest weather in decades, residents are feeling bored, cooped up, and anxious, but for the most part, they're safe. But have a look, Julia, at this video, because my goodness, it was indeed and is wet and flooded.
Australia's Prime Minister is cautioning that the fallout from a vicious tropical storm over the weekend is far from over. Parts of 2 states, Queensland and New South Wales, remain inundated with floodwaters. 1 person was killed and several others injured after heavy rain lashed Australia's east coast on Saturday. Thousands of homes and businesses are still without power.
This morning I can say that in relatively good news, there's still 1 person in hospital, a soldier, and we wish him a speedy recovery. But everyone else has been discharged from hospital, and that is certainly good news. I do want to reiterate that whilst this is the first time for days I've been in an area where it hasn't been raining, often torrential rain. Whilst that is occurring, this event is far from over. And if it's flooded, forget it. We need to continue to not be complacent.
Yeah, she fell right on top of the power line. It's just touching it. Really hoping that the tree stays where it is and doesn't fall any further. We were sleeping in the hallway to try and stay out of, any danger. And it wasn't the most comfortable night's sleep, but we're just glad to be able to still be here, and we weren't hurt, so it's all good.
We were pretty prepared for that, actually. We've been through many of these storm type events before. Once we realised that the low pressure system had basically stalled, we knew that the worst of the weather could easily be ahead of us, and that was the case, unfortunately.
So we actually manage the caravan park across the road here, and we've just realised that we've got 2 big trees have come down and pulled fencing up and things, so we'll spend most of the day assessing that and trying to clean that up.
Well, the good news is that there were precious few injuries, apparently. But, man, what a pain in the patoot this is going to be. Better the rain than bushfires, Alan Long is saying. Gordon Smith knows you, Julia, or he knows relatives. He says, my relatives on the border between New South Wales and Queensland live on a land so flat that they keep a boat on the property in case the levees break during a rainstorm.
As you
Julia, he
should.
knows you. That boat that's been in the garage for 40 years and never touched in case we have a tsunami here in the
We're
completely
going to be prepared.
the completely flat Marina District of San Francisco. Julia's boat in the top of the garage for floods like this.
But you got to have a boat.
Oh, you just because you're the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club,
Right.
you want to have a boat.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank goodness there was, other than the heavy rain, and there's going to be billions of dollars of property damage, but they'll get through it, no doubt. So we're thinking still of you all in that corner of Australia, friends, family, and Fozy. And we switch now and move smartly forward to what are we celebrating today, Julia? There's a hint behind that lower third. What's that guy doing?
Plumbing.
Right. Well done. It is, in fact,
Oh.
World Plumbing Day. From hot showers to clean drinking water, plumbing provides us with essential comforts, of course, that we all often take for granted. And how this day happened is, God only knows. But today on the continents of Australia, Europe, and Africa, events are organized to mark, and apparently here in the States, I don't know, mark the occasion and draw attention to the importance of good plumbing and sanitation in China, England, Germany, India, Canada, North and South America, and many more places. Industry leaders like, I don't know, us here today, some company, governments, policymakers, and community-based organizations are promoting World Plumbing Day. And of course, Julie, we have to talk about it on this show because one of the great blessings of modern mariners,
Yeah.
marine life, and also one of the great curses is the marine toilet, which
Yes.
don't put anything in it except number 1 or number 2. Everybody on the boat has a sign like that. And these things are better with each passing year, but they're still
Oh, I know.
difficult.
And they always don't work when it's absolutely essential.
They work when you don't need it, when you can take a pee over the side, but when you need to do it. Yeah, well, look, I've got a segue. Now, we talked about this. You saw it in the show notes at the top of the show. You know who that is on the right?
No.
That's P.J. Montgomery. That's
Oh, I didn't recognize him.
Peter Mont Commentary.
Yes, I love him.
And you know who that is in the middle? Probably not.
Mm-mm.
But a celebrated, actually fabulous, bright guy, one of the great sailors from the upper Midwest, speaking of Chicago Yacht Club and that part of the world, the Great Lakes. That is Terry Kohler, the late, great Terry Kohler from the U.S. That's an image, a photo from Sail World in Auckland, I believe in 2000. It might have been 03. But during that events, those events in New Zealand, Kohler's 75-foot Power Cat North Star was used as the commentary vessel. It was really the media boat for 2 America's Cup broadcasts and became the epicenter for America's Cup coverage from the Hauraki Gulf in both those years, 2000, 2003. It was a real treat to get invited out onto North Star.
Yeah.
And Gary was out there, and they were doing the ESPN broadcast, and then Peter and whoever was with him, Peter Lester, I can't remember, were doing the local TVNZ broadcast from North Star.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of action, and Terry Kohler could not have been a more gracious host for those 2 cups with his wife, Mary, with whom I got to be dear friends over the years. Terry, more importantly, perhaps, is from that famous, plumbing, that fixture, right. High-end, upper class, bathroom, kitchen fixtures, and so on, the Kohler Company.
Mm-hmm.
Terry lived from 1934 to 2016, and he was a Renaissance man. He was a pilot. I've flown with him, in fact. He was the majority shareholder in what became North Technology before becoming the sole shareholder through his company, Winway Capital Corp. He bought North Sales, and then he bought Southern Spars, and Winway was named after his father's estate, and in turn, he sold North Technology, which included by then North, which makes 80% of the world's sales, and Southern Spars to Oakley Capital in 2014, so 11 years ago. Hard to believe. During Terry Kohler's tenure, overseeing the development of the Sailing and Composites conglomerate, Kohler created the engine above the deck concept, which married the technology used to build the sails and the spars so they were designed and would work as an integral unit.
What a good idea.
And there is a picture that some of you will be familiar with. That's from inside the manufacturing facility, the North Sales facility, originally 3DL, and God knows what all they make out there on the molds now. But it's a fascinating facility in Minden, Nevada. But apropos this being World Plumbing Day, that has nothing to do really with North Sales, except it did help give Terry the wherewithal coming from the Kohler family.
To help.
And the bold look of Kohler and these high-end fixtures, whether in the bathroom or the kitchen. In fact, here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, Julia,
Yes,
we have a lot of Kohler
we do.
fixtures, both here in my apartment and I guess upstairs in yours. And I just want to give a shout out to Kohler, and they have superb customer service. It's second to none. And if you thought I was going to get a toilet seat on Sailing Illustrated, I have succeeded with this segment, because not too long ago, it's hard to see that white toilet seat perhaps, but they had a quiet, closed, elongated toilet seat here, and I had one here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, and it failed. One day it suddenly went down and made a big clack. And I said, "What's this?" And I opened it up, the handy guy that I sometimes am, and tried to see what it was. It was whatever those little things are inside that make it go down soft. We're talking about toilet seats, quiet, closed toilet seats, Julia.
I'm so glad.
But the point is that Terry Kohler and Kohler Company, his family's company, I wrote them a simple email, and I didn't say we have a show that thousands of people watch or anything. I just said, "Hey, I'm a simple country boy from Michigan, knew Mr. Kohler, and my toilet seat has failed after a year and a half whenever I bought it from Amazon not long ago."
Yeah.
And then in the mail, free of charge, and no shipping charge, no nothing, they sent me a new toilet seat. So I'm glad to say that if there's anybody here outside the studio in the bathroom and they put the toilet seat down, it will not make a loud noise. So bravo Zulu to Kohler. And this is today, at least, it's the plumbing show, Julie, with a sailing out.
Enough.
Okay, enough.
All moving water.
We are also celebrating. Yeah, it is. I mean, come on. That was a good segue, wasn't it?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
We're also celebrating all of you who support the show, whether as patrons or just coming on here or coming on the show, as Mark is trying to do from his train across the country in New Mexico, where he is now. Thanks for your support. We appreciate it very much. And speaking of Fozy, we have a program note about our show this Friday upcoming. On this Friday, our guest will be the yachtsman and author extraordinaire and longtime friend and member of the Beach Street Yacht Club.
Yes.
Staff Commodore Kimball Livingston of the St. Francis Yacht Club. Terrific guy. And he's going to be speaking about the rise of private youth sailing teams here in this country and beyond on this Friday's show, Friday, the 14th of March. It's going to be a fun and very interesting show. And he won't be in studio, but he will be on via either Skype or Zoom, so we'll have him for that. Fritz Mueller is saying, yeah, it's Plumber's Day. I think he meant Plumber's Day. Plumbing, not plumbing. Not plumbing, I will do anything but plumbing. I actually don't like to do plumbing either, but can do it. Can do it a little bit, have done a little bit. I did manage to replace the toilet seat, which isn't exactly plumbing.
Oh, and
okay, Mark says he's in the clear. Shall we try to get him on here on the Skype, Julia?
Okay.
I'll go push the button and see if we can get him on. Stingray saying, my new toilet in the newly renovated bathroom suite is a Kohler, flushes fast and fills fast, a nice model. Okay.
Good. This is a tribute to Kohler.
Well, it is indeed. And hi to you all. Ken Saban, speaking of the Great Lakes, he's on the western end of Lake Erie, saying it's spring there. Nice. Dan Jaspers, RS Boats, RS Yachts, RS Sailing. Greeting, Tom and Julie. Looking forward to be hanging out in your neck of the woods when he's in San Fran. Please don't say San Fran. I don't mind it. The locals don't like it. Please don't say San Fran for the Sail GP event later this month. Can't wait to visit your beautiful city. The weekend after next, this coming weekend, they're in LA, and then they are up here in San Francisco. That is Sail GP. Ed Worley is saying North Sails will give you a tour. Yes, they will, of the sail off the factory in Minden. It is a very cool, informative tour, he says, and it's a very cool place indeed. Gordon Smith, what present do you buy for a man that has everything? Answer, antibiotics. I guess, Plumbing Illustrated, Mark Holland. Christopher Gillingham saying hi. He's adjusting to the new time, only for 3 weeks for you in the Great Britain and on the continent. And James Appel saying, how about a shout out to former ISAF president and plumber Paul Henderson? Well,
yes.
The truth is, as you know, Julia, Paul Henderson has been on this show any number of times, always called himself a plumber, but he owned and managed a big corporate plumbing company that serviced McDonald's and other corporate clients when they're
can't do without them,
when their facilities, took a powder. Plumbing Illustrated. Gordon Smith, who likes puns, says this is a crappy joke. Oh my goodness, too much info. Come on, Joe Holtzman. This is the plumbing show today. Ted Ryman nearly missed us an hour earlier. Yeah, just I don't know when they go off summertime in Cape Town, or do they ever go off summertime? In fact, Clark Chapin's reminding us that Terry Kohler received the U.S. Sailing's top award, the Herreshoff, one of the top awards, the Herreshoff Trophy. It is the top award, Service Award in 2009 for his contributions to the sport. Thanks, Clark, for that. And Alan Long is saying there's another plumbing sailing connection to Zern. I didn't know that. And we have actually, you know what? That reminds me, J. Frederick Bland's reminding me, we did talk about on this show previously about Thomas Crapper. Remember that? You're leaning like your politics, Julia. There you go.
Sorry.
Because the ladies' John, or the men's flush toilet or something, the first public toilet maybe, was invented for the Great Exhibition of London, 1851, apropos the America's Cup in 1851. So we have talked about plumbing, and we've talked about Thomas
Richard Clapper.
Crapper, not Clapper. Ted Ryman is, they don't change the clocks in South Africa. They're on perpetual daylight time, I guess. Is that right, Ted? Are you on perpetual daylight time or on standard time? Alan Long's asking, didn't Richard Nixon have some good plumbers? And yes, Richard Nixon did do some sailing down in Ed Worley's home club a long time ago. Stingray saying the new Kohler Crapper has a sexy voice too. The way she says thank you with an Aussie accent has me going in there flashing just for fun. Oh my goodness. The jokes. Yeah, the jokes are flowing, Julia, are flowing.
Yes.
Dan Jasper says, my sincere apologies to all San Franciscans. I'll be sure to refer to San Francisco by its... No, I asked you that they prefer what, Julia, the Bay Area?
Yeah, or the Bay.
But not San Fran and not Frisco.
Not Frisco.
You're the local. Okay, hey, you know what? We had him there for a moment. That is Mark Reed, and now he's frozen and looking dissipated again. So we've lost him again. And I may try to skip ahead and see if when he gets closer to Albuquerque, if we can reestablish the connection, Julia.
Yep.
What would you think of that?
I think it's a good idea.
So with rather than me doing the segment, I'd really rather have Mark do the segment, because what he's talking about doing is very cool stuff coming up here in Chicago, and he knows a lot of the history about Heart of America and so on. So I think we'll wait and see if we get a good connection from him with him. And I'll skip ahead to, in fact, since he's headed to LA, I'm going to even skip the Sail GP segment, Julia, and maybe come back to that with Mark as well, because it would be nice to have Mark on. He's very knowledgeable about Sail GP, and he's going to go there and cover it.
Oh, that's right.
And then he'll be up here to cover Sail GP for Latitude 38 in due course. Jody Shields is asking, while we're talking about Sail GP, how's the forecast looking for Sail GP this weekend? Well, Jody, if you read Magnus the Magnificent's blog post this morning, did you read it, Julia? The Rule 69 blog post.
Yeah.
It's looking really light. I mean, this time of year, the wind is not reliable in LA. It's not reliable here in San Francisco. It's March, for God's sakes. There is not a reliable sea breeze. Or here in San Francisco, it can blow oysters off rocks, as it did last week.
Yeah.
It was really windy for 3 or 4 days. The bridge was singing.
I know.
I don't mind the foghorns.
I love the foghorns.
But when the bridge sings,
it
drives me crazy.
It is. It's a wrong pitch.
Probably drives Kimball Livingston crazy, too, because he and his bride lived right out there at the foot of the bridge in Sunset, whatever that's called, Sunset Cliffs or the Sunset District. Okay, it's looking very light, Jody. Chris Fury's checking in from Melbourne. Clark Chapin is saying, because his son lives here, yes, the Bay Area or even the city, as you see on the jerseys of our esteemed basketball team, which is doing better and better. The Golden State Warriors looks like they're going to be a playoff contender after all, Julia.
Yay.
Let's go to John Emmett's report and see if we get Mark back in a good connection in due course. And we have a nice report from John Emmett, who is back at the family farm in front of his Kubota. You know what a Kubota is?
Yes.
My dad has a Kubota tractor.
Yeah.
Japanese tractor, very reliable.
Yes.
Here in the U.S., the John Deere folks probably won't be too happy, but here's John's report for today.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. If you haven't done so already, now is the perfect time to share because it means people may have the opportunity to tune in live to the show, and comments are especially welcome when they're live. In fact, I think Facebook's probably going to be changing the way that live videos are saved and showed, so it's especially important to watch live. And comments always welcome. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to watch the show live myself, but I will always try and go back and just see what the Fozy want. First of all, in traditional radio style, huge shout out to Al and Tracy for looking after me so well. You can probably tell I'm back on the farm. So home sweet home, but the dress code is a little bit different here than it is in Australia. And there's more than a little jealousy of Lily, who's having a rather nice time in the hotter weather. And I think probably for the 29ers, she wished there was a little bit more wind, but that's the way it goes. Reliving her youth, trying out the junior and youth classes. Personally, I needed to come back to the UK because I'm actually racing at the weekends, trying to do the national opens, although I do feel a little underprepared. I normally get a new boat around this sort of time of year. I haven't even got that sorted. But at the same time, I did do some racing in Australia. So it was really good to make the most of the trip aboard. And one of the things I'm looking for is what's going to happen in the bigger picture of sailing. And we've got a huge para event happening in Sydney that I'm going to do my very best to promote. And I really hope the Fozy can come on board with me and just try and share the life out of those events as well. But yeah, thank you very much again to Alistair and Tracy. It's always a good sign of the fact you're enjoying yourself when a month just flies past. By back on the farm with the responsibilities. It doesn't perhaps feel like it, but British summertime is coming, and that's the time to get the work done. We've got the structural stuff going on in the background of the granary, and of course it's nice to see my mum, who's in her 80s. So yeah, little things can make a big difference. Today I think we finally figured out why her car keeps on going flat. Simply because the battery was put in not very well when the car was actually made in the first place. So it's amazing, sometimes really frustrating things can have a very simple solution. And I have to say, I did enjoy driving in Australia. My morning cycle along the beach road was a lot of fun. Not that keen on the Melbourne or Sydney traffic, but that's true of any major city. But the hybrid was just amazing. When I went to the airport, I thought there must be something wrong with the petrol pump because I only used about $40 of fuel for my entire stay, which just shows how efficient that modern cars and things can be. And we need to think very much about the future and sort of embrace these things which are going on. Certainly as a cyclist, it's much nicer having those EV vehicles around, so I'm not breathing in fumes. And I am aware that sailing is a sport. We sometimes get a little bit greenwashed because we do a lot of travel and the materials and stuff for boats. But at the same time, having travelled extensively myself, I do think meeting different people and sharing, that competitive thing through sport is just the best thing in the world. And I think for that reason, the Olympics is probably something very special. And I wish as a planet, we could all just get on a bit better. It's one of the things the scientists say when the astronauts, when they're up there looking down, they just see the blue marble, and there's no borders for countries and things like that. And that's, a good message for our sport of sailing, just to be overall inclusive and to include everyone. So I'm back in the UK, sort of collecting my next set of visas for the next few events. And it's really the start of the season in Europe, the big one being the Princess Sophia, which is now a Grand Slam. So lots to talk about. And as I said, comments always very welcome. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have lots of fun.
Lots of fun, Julia.
Yes.
John Emmett, get to the front of the fleet with John Emmett Sailing. Another nice report from John. Covered the waterfront there.
Indeed.
In front of his Kubota. A lot of jokes from Gordon Smith, who completely agrees with John. Jody's asking, is John a transformer? Clarksville weighing in with his expertise about car batteries. Stingray's talking, wanting to know if the new toilet will be... I'm not even going to read that. Oh, my goodness. Alistair Murray says maybe the best comment. John may be home, but at least we still have Lily. She and I are racing together today.
That's got to be something.
At Sandringham.
Yeah.
Nice. Also, remember, we've been saying at the end of John's report how important it is for all of us to get behind or stay behind. Those many of you on here already are supporting. Yeah. As we talked about in show number 805 back on the last day of January, getting parasailing reinstated for Brisbane 2032. Yes, wesail.org, among others, and to support world sailing and especially support our Aussie friends, and because the Olympics are going to be in Brisbane 2032, notwithstanding all the water, but that's a temporary situation. Yeah, they've got some construction issues there. We hear about that, but let's hope they're going to have a great Olympics. That's, almost, 7 years, 2032. So 7 more years for them to get ready. And we hope they will, meaning the Australians, it's their decision, not World Sailing's decision. We hope in fact, it's the organizing committee in Brisbane. We hope they will make sailing, bring sailing in as a demonstration event for 2032.
Or return it.
Which will, it was a regular Paralympic
I know, but
event.
return it to the Olympics.
It returns it at least as a demonstration event to the Olympics, and then hopefully we get in the Paralympics going forward from there. Julia?
Sir?
What happened on this day in history? The 11th of March.
Oh, I don't know.
2020.
Oh, 2020?
Yes.
Well, that was COVID.
It was COVID, and here's a rather grim picture commemorating that. It's from 2000. It broke out apparently in Wuhan in China, and then it quickly moved to northern Italy, among other places. But Italy, because they have, apparently the fashion houses outside in and around Milano do a lot of their, the production of stuff in Wuhan in China. There are direct flights between Wuhan and Milano. That's how northern Italy apparently got so quickly and badly infected before they had vaccines, before they really knew what was going on. This is actually a burial victim of coronavirus victim in Iran, of all places, in 2000. But it was on this day, Julia. Here's your other clue.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
The infamous Tedros Ghebreyesus from Ethiopia. He's got doctoral degrees, but God knows from where, and he's not a medical doctor. But he is, and I believe still is, the Director General of the WHO. The World Health Organization.
Yeah.
And it was on this day that his organization declared that COVID-19 was a pandemic, and that after there were 121,000 plus cases worldwide and already 4,300 deaths on this day,
wow,
the 11th of March. Does it seem that long ago?
Mm-mm.
Does it seem like 100 years ago?
No, it seems like yesterday afternoon.
I've lost all track of time through the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember when anything happened anymore. Except this did happen on this day 5 years ago today. And then another infamous character, Dr. Anthony Fauci. The day was March 11, 2020, according to Yahoo News. That morning, within 60 seconds of the opening bell, not unlike what we've seen here in the last couple days, Julia.
Yes.
The Dow Jones plunged more than 700 points on Capitol Hill. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of our NIH National Institute of NIAID, Allergies and Infectious Diseases, warned Congress that, quote, it's going to get worse. And then he rushed to the White House to confer with President Trump about shutting down basically the country, but travel from Europe and much more, ultimately. Meanwhile, in Geneva, the WHO finally declared COVID-19 a pandemic, acknowledging that they were deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity and by the alarming levels of infection. Julia.
Inaction.
Inaction. Thank you very much. That's why we have you on the show, to keep me, correct me, because I'm such a crouton.
No, you're not. But
you remember that?
Mm.
Now, here's a picture for you. Do you remember that? That was 9 days later. After that declaration on the 20th of March, that is Times Square in New York City, because the state of New York shut down, as did the state of California, as did the city of San Francisco, closed the schools, sent everybody home. That is the 20th of March, an empty Times Square in New York City. Now, it was a couple months later, it was on the 20th of March, I beg your pardon, 20th of May, that we had a very long-haired Andrew McIrvin, who hadn't had his hair cut by then for a couple months at least, and a very serious-looking host. We had the Mr. Doctor on our show, and that was show number 296. And what are we up to now? 815. So almost, 550 shows ago, something like this. Call it 300. So 500 plus shows ago. And Julia, that's what the Studio B looked like when we had Andrew on. You were there on the little white table.
I still am. Oh, no, I'm not.
Now you got your big fancy table now.
Right.
You got a big fancy table over there, and you got a monitor, but it's the same headset. It's the same Mr. Doctor, as he was called. We were all trying to figure out. In fact, on that show, I listened to a bit of it this morning. He explained to us, because I called him Doctor, and Andrew Pindar said, no, you can't call him that. He's a Mr.
Yeah.
And of course, the difference is that consulting surgeons, and he explained it to us on that show,
right.
that it's a much
higher
rank to be a Mr. rather than a doctor, which is not much bigger, not much higher than somebody who gives you shaves at the barber shop, apparently, back in the old days anyway. Hard to believe 5 years ago, Julia.
I know.
This day in history. Okay, enough of all that madness. We had him on for a moment. I don't see him back. I'll go look over here on the Skype computer, see if we can get him back again. We'll see if we can get Mark in as he closes in on Albuquerque, New Mexico. That was Route 66, not the Chief, the Southwest Chief, or whatever that's called. So yeah, it's just there he is. We got him live. Oh. We better make hay while the sun shines here. Welcome, Mark Reed.
I'm not fine.
Yeah, that's a wonderful connection. We have him, and he's got the scenery. You can see him. He's on a moving train. Well, let's wait till you get a little closer to Albuquerque, Mark. He's not. Yeah, we lost him. Okay, we're going to push on here, Julia, because we don't have a solid connection. I was worried about that.
Yeah,
they didn't tell me when they said he was going to come on the show, and Betsy Altman Barrett and others were saying, well, yeah, we get him on. I didn't know he was going to be on a train.
No.
I'm not sure he knew he was going to be on a train either, but nonetheless, a longtime friend and Fozy, Mark Reed. And if we can't get him on, I'll do his segment with his some of the notes that he sent me earlier today. Let's get to the news briefs, Julia.
Yes.
Now, what happened to my flag there?
That's the wrong flag.
No, there's a green screen, something. Well, it's not the wrong flag. It should be yellow checks, though.
Yes.
It should be yellow, not, that's interesting, not white.
It's the wrong flag.
Look at over on here.
Oh, it is.
On camera 4 on that monitor. But,
it's correct.
But you know what that is? That is I won't bore you with the technical. I know what it is that's caused that, but that's something we can fix in due course. News briefs, code flag L. In fact, yesterday in the rain and drizzle and fog in Sydney Harbor, that race committee boat had the code flag L up, which means follow me. If ashore, we said before, it means a notice, a change in the sailing instructions or a notice to competitors has been posted on the official notice board. Code flag L Lima was up as they moved the starting area because they have an easterly breeze, or did yesterday. At the JJ, that is a world exclusive photo, Julia.
Yes.
You know how I got that?
Hard to say. Off the screen?
Exactly. It's a screen grab from the video, live video, when I was watching it last night, just
well done.
As they are starting the 4th race. There have now been 4 races completed. And there were 2 races actually yesterday, 2 short course races with the rain and light variable easterly on what was day 3. Today is day 4. They have 2 more races scheduled today, in fact. Of the winnings, 2025 JJ Giltonen, 18-foot skiff. It's really their world championship, the Intergalactics, I call it. Made little difference to the incredible performance being shown by the defending champion Yandu team, which has now won all 4 races of the regatta on Sydney Harbor. So bravo Zulu to them. Fast and faultless. Best sums up the Yandu team of Tom Needham. Tom Needham, who is a newbie. He's not, I think he sailed in this regatta before, but he's the new skipper of Yandu with former world champion crew, Fang Warren on the sheet and Lewis Brake on the bow. They are veterans with the Yandu team, and they have clearly dominated all 4 races of the 9-race series and given a clear points lead going into another 2 races tomorrow. That's Frank Quealy writing for Sail-World, or at least for the class press release, which appears on sail-world.com today. There's some of the action from yesterday. Our Fozy and good friend Harry Hall has had a bit of a struggle with his, I think his shoulder is really
that's right.
Not good, Julia. But Yandu is leading. They've only had 4 races, but they've got 4 bullets. And if they get racing in today, which apparently they will, then each of the teams will get a throw out at discard. Finport Finances second, SeaTech in third, and there's Ragan and Famish, the hotel team led by Harry Price. They are in 4th, but look at their scores, 5, 6, 4, 5. They've been consistently around 5th place. So they have 20 points. But when the discards come in, there's some teams down there with some heavy numbers that will get discarded and are going to get moved up the leader board. Meanwhile, can anybody catch Yandu, who just seems to be really...
Yeah, that's
really
incredible.
Strong. Let's see if there's any comments there before we leave that topic, because there are a lot of Aussies on here. Funny, Tom doesn't even know what a long drop toilet is. How do you know, Stingray? But you know what, Julia?
Go ahead.
I don't. I have no idea. Do you know what a long drop toilet is? Is that a Turkish toilet that you squat over and it's a long drop?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, Stingray. Why are we talking about this on a sailing show?
Enough.
Denmark also locked down on this date. Yeah, Sweden and Florida seem to have called it right, but what did they know? We didn't know. Clark Chapin, everybody, they're back on what happened on this day. Infamous, yeah, infamous. Stingray said he returned from a trip to South Africa on March 10th that turned out to be just in time. Yeah, flights got shut down. Yeah, they're all talking about what happened 5 years ago today. Yes, Steve Adkins. Now, remember Steve Adkins, he says very bizarre days indeed up there in the comments. And oh man, Julia, you remember we had Steve Adkins on the show.
Yes. From bed.
From his hospital bed. He wouldn't even tell us what hospital. He didn't want to. We knew.
No.
And he asked us not to say, but he was in the, I think we can say now, in the Yale New Haven Hospital in New Haven, Connecticut.
And they were treating him as a one and only.
Well, I think his wife also got it.
Yeah.
But she was not too badly affected.
Yeah.
Afflicted. But he suffered very bad.
He did.
Cardiovascular problems, and especially in the lungs. And remember, they didn't know how to treat it, and they saw everybody's O2 saturation, their blood oxygen level was going way down fast. So they put everybody in ventilators, which only made it worse. Which is why originally all those people died in northern Italy and beyond, where they thought, well, we got to put people on ventilators. They put Steve Atkins, if I remember well, put him on
Yeah, they did.
a ventilator. And he lived to talk about it, thank God. He was really sick. And he was,
I remember.
He told us when he came on live that day and he was still in hospital, at one point, he thought he was down for the count.
Yep.
I don't know if he's Catholic, let alone if the priest came in, but he said it was really touch and go there for a while. So,
yeah. And his wife was sick at the same time.
yeah, but I don't think she was ever hospitalized. But Commodore Atkins was the first guy we knew who had COVID. And of course, you've had it twice. I've had it twice. Most everybody's had it. But Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin gave us very good advice throughout that whole period.
Did.
And now he's telling me he was not on a ventilator. That's maybe why he survived. So thank God for that. I thought you told me you were. But man, oh man, Steve Atkins.
Yeah, we were all.
He was darn sick in that period. I remember that. And so we've had an interview from a hospital bed, and now we're trying to get an interview from a train. Well, we keep trying to do things here. We've had some other interesting live shots from boats and beyond. So let's carry on with the news here. We told you on Friday's show, and actually I think on Tuesday's show, we covered the Bacardi Cup in Miami, down near Fritz Mueller, where over 600 sailors from 24 nations took over Biscayne Bay, not just the Star Class, which has been doing this for 98 years. The Bacardi Cup has been sailed. Started out in Cuba, or as JFK said, Cuba and Cuba. But now there's other classes besides the Star Class sailing, but I digress. The winners for their 6th straight time, the Bacardi Cup legends Mateusz Kuznierowicz and Bruno Prada from Poland and Brazil, respectively, sailed to a sixth straight victory. Bravo Zulu to them. In fact, not only did they win, but they won before they didn't have to sail the final race, but they did nonetheless, as Magnus pointed out in his column here a couple of days ago. The 98th Bacardi, this isn't his column, this is the press release from the Star Class. The 98th Bacardi Cup fleet was a who's who of sailing greatness, featuring 6 former Bacardi Cup winners, 11 Star World Champions, 11, and a host of Star Class legends. Consistency across 6 races was a monumental task, but Mateusz and Bruno rose to the occasion once again, defending their title and securing an incredible 6th consecutive victory with a race to spare.
Wow.
A race to spare, Julia.
Yes.
And as Magnus pointed out in his blog post, in his Rule 69 blog on Substack, if you haven't already subscribed, you should.
I did.
I know you did. You get it in the mail now every day, right?
Only because I paid for it.
Did you finally pay it? Because I've been forwarding it to you in your mail every day.
But now I do get it every day.
Good for you. It's well worth it. It's not a pricey thing.
No, but I love his writing anyway.
Well, you love him. You just like these Anglo guys. Aussies, Kiwis, Brits living in Denmark, Brits living in South Africa.
No.
No. You're a Britophile. Is that a word?
I'm not.
So he won with, these guys won with a day to spare, with a race to spare, but they still went out. As Magnus pointed out in his blog post, they stayed away from the competition, raced around the track, still finished, I think, in the top 10. But this is a class that continues to exhibit a lot of class.
It does.
A lot of first class, not second or third class. Just fantastic stuff. Now we see that maybe we've got, I'll try again here to see if we an Anglophile. I like Britophile, Clark Chapin. Mark says he's on 5G now in Albuquerque, New Mexico, as he's closing in on that train station. We'll see if we can get him on here and do his segment. In the meantime, just a final note here on the top 3, Mateusz and Bruno on top. Then Eric Doyle, who is a former world champion with Payson Infelice. Eric, so we did a couple cup campaigns together down in San Diego. Great world-class sailor. And then Jack Jennings, who's a senior citizen like I am, Julia, like we are, with Pedro Truchet, finished 3rd, close to 2nd. Well done to them. And bravo Zulu to everybody in that regatta, not just the star class, but it's turned into a big deal with the addition of those other classes. And Ed Worley asking, when was the last year the star class was used in the Olympics? What, 92, 96? Can't remember.
I don't remember.
Somebody will know. Somebody will have Googled it. Clark Chapin, somebody will have figured that out. Let's quickly now go to the IQ foils. They are racing, and they've got their Wet and Wild Day 1 as their headline. They're in Cadiz in Spain, and where it's breezy down there on the south coast, and they've had a terrific. No, I don't think it's. I'm watching the comments, Stingray. I don't think anything was misspelled, was it? Class is smarter than that. I hope not. It's not my graphics, regardless. But this IQ foil, which is the Olympic windsurfer, foiling windsurfer now, is going strong, and they've got a great event going on in Cadiz in the south of Spain. Here's the video from day 2.
Welcome to day 1 of racing at the 2025 IQ Foil International Games in Cadiz.
I'm excited today. Today going to be awesome, strong, and crazy.
We're gonna do the course racing. Finally, conditions are perfect, I think.
And I'm feeling no pressure. I'm enjoying myself.
Let's now take a look at some of the highlights from the water. Almost all fleets managed to complete a full 4 course races in challenging conditions.
Really nice outside, like I was surprised, like the sweat was really big.
In the seniors, Emma Wilson and Finn Hawkins take the lead after day 1. In the men, Gray Morris is hot on the heels of Hawkins though.
A few things on the downwinds and a few crashes, but managed to keep myself within kind of the top 5 area. So I was pretty happy with my consistency.
In the under 19, Kilian Manaval and Yveske van der Meer had a great start to the event, winning all their races. In the under 17, the yellow bibs after day 1 go to Julia Pseubel and Finn Brule.
It's a really good day today. We just came off the water with 4 crazy course races. I managed to get 3 bullets, so really happy with today.
That day is great for me. I won 3 races. I'm excited about the race tomorrow.
With more of these conditions on the horizon, tomorrow promises to be another great day in El Puerto de Santa Maria in Cadiz.
Nice video. Good class.
Yep.
Good stuff. Claire Harrington, Vice Commodore Claire Harrington saying, can you imagine calling that starting line? By the way, Vice Commodore Harrington has been named the PRO of the start of the Transat race. So she's got to pull that race committee for New York Yacht Club together and all of that preparation for the Transat. Bravo Zulu to our super Fozy, Claire Harrington. Yeah, great vid. What would we do without drones? Ted Ryman is saying. Indeed. Nice video. Ed Worley agrees. Really nicely done from that class. Our final news break, I think it's our final one. The Vendée Globe has now wrapped up. That 33rd finisher did finish on Saturday, as we told you we thought he would last week. And in fact, he finished on Saturday. Dennis van Wijnberg from Belgium was the final finisher. He finished 33rd. He had a big throng of people waiting for him and ushering him in to the harbor, and he was asked afterwards, what did you learn? What was the biggest learning from this whole race? He said, beyond the things related to sailing, you discover a lot of things about yourself. I've never had so many nervous breakdowns. You try to breathe, to calm down, to manage your anxiety attacks. You learn that you can be afraid. Each time you set yourself small goals over a few days, nice. Sometimes it's interminable, like between the Cape of Good Hope and Cape Lewin there in the Indian Ocean. He said the Indian Ocean is very big, inhospitable, vicious, as if a big man was blowing on you above you according to your attacks. Even Jean Lecombe, who's the oldest skipper in the race, was very far north in this ocean. I tried to sail like a good father, even like a good father of a large family. I went around the track. I didn't have the courage or the talent to do otherwise. So I think a little bit was lost there in the French translation. But bravo Zulu to him. He did finish on Saturday, and now all 33 of the 40 starters, the 33 that were still in the hunt, have all now finished. He sadly finished after the time limit had dried up on Friday.
But I was pleased to see that he got a grand welcome.
Yeah, and I agree with Gordon Smith. Those are wonderful words we should probably I should print out and pin here on the wall, Julia.
Yes.
So that every time we have it feels like somebody above us is blowing down hard on us, like when we were trying to get Mark Reed connected earlier today.
Yeah.
But we do have Mark there. The yachting journalist is standing by, and we've got audio from him as well. And he is en route via train from Chicago to L.A. Mark, welcome to the show.
How you doing today, Tom?
Well, better now that you're here. I didn't want to have to read your notes because you're way more expert on this. Why are you on the show today? And I'll go tee up your slides while you're telling us what's going on. Tell us a little bit about your train ride as well.
Well, I'm in the vast desert ocean of the Southwest United States on my way to LA. I'm outside of Albuquerque. What we're going to be talking about today, and the important thing is the Chicago Yacht Club is hosting a Heart of America reunion to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the team, but also it's the Yacht Club's 150th anniversary. And so the club is going to be doing a series of top talks. And the first top talk is actually the discussion of the Heart of America, which was a unique America's Cup team from 1986, 1987, skippered by Buddy Melgus, and with many of the crew from the greater Midwest and around. But what's going to be really cool is next Friday, March 21st, at the Chicago Yacht Club, we are going to be featuring speakers to talk about Chicago's entry into the America's Cup and then kind of what happened in competing. Much of the crew will be there, many of the members of the Yacht Club. We're going to be featuring Jordan Peters, who's the attorney that spoke at the New York Supreme Court to have Chicago officially declared to the Royal Perth Yacht Club a arm of the sea, which was massive in terms of getting the club accepted as a challenger. And then Gary Jobson is going to join us, and he's going to talk about his experience with the team and then his genesis as an announcer for ESPN.
Cool stuff. And let me show this poster, because the other cool thing about that team was its famous poster when this came out. Remember, this was the high point of America's Cup teams. There were fully 17 teams in Fremantle for the 86-87 Cup. And Heart of America was one of 6 American teams, and this poster was by far the best poster I think any of us have seen. Wouldn't you agree? Mark, did we lose you?
Oh, absolutely. It was way cool. Nope, I'm right here, Tom.
Okay, good.
I remember when Buddy brought it to the...
Go ahead.
No, I remember the night Heart of America was training in San Francisco for several months against Canada 2 and the St. Francis Yacht Club's USA from the Golden Gate Challenge. And I remember when Buddy brought the poster into the container to show everybody. It's the first time I ever saw it. And it was so cool. And he signed it. And again, it's iconic, representing Chicago, the wheat fields, and what is the Heart of America. Indeed.
Great stuff. And that, I'm sure you'll have a few of those around when you meet on the 21st of March. Stephen Suchia is on. He's saying, thanks, Mark. Looking forward to attending the Heart of America reunion event in Chicago. And I know Gary Jobson, as you mentioned. And it a lot of people, Alan Long and others, confirming this was one of the great posters ever in the America's Cup. And the tagline for this event is, join us for an Australian-themed dinner and panel discussion focusing on CYC's initiative to bring the America's Cup back to the U.S. and Chicago. The legal challenges that you just mentioned, Mark, proving Lake Michigan was an arm of the sea, reflections on crew selection and training, and commentary and video clips of racing in Australia by Gary Jobson. All club members, and get this, crew members, and you've got a lot coming, I know. Of course, the late, great Buddy Melgus won't be there, sadly, but other interested sailors are welcome to join the dinner and presentation. Go on the CYC website. It's at the Monroe Station, as you see here. Chicago Yacht Club has two stations, the Belmont Station, but the Monroe Station is their main station at the foot of Monroe Street in downtown Chicago. And it should be, Mark, it should be a hell of an event.
We're really looking forward to it. I think that Chicago Yacht.
Uh-oh.
There he's back.
You got me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Somebody passed it. No, the Chicago Yacht Club is clearly one of the premier yacht clubs in the world. For people that want to attend the event, they can still get tickets at the Chicago Yacht Club's website, or they can go to Eventbrite. But it's a chance to spend an evening in one of the most beautiful yacht clubs in the world, right on Lake Michigan. And it's just going to be a very entertaining and adventurous evening for everybody, whether you were part of the team or whether you want to learn about the team. It's going to be really neat. And again, this is part of the Yacht Club's 150th anniversary Top Talks, in which we're doing a series of talks throughout the year about the illustrious history of the Yacht Club, being the different trophies or the different sailing programs. And again, please be our guest at the Yacht Club. It will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Yeah, the club has been around for, 150 years this year, but Julia, you sailed in one of the Mackinac races, back in the 60s or
68.
68, and the Chicago Mackinac has been going on that's the race from Chicago up to Mackinac Island, northern Michigan, where between the southern peninsula and the northern peninsula. You're from Michigan, Mark. How long's that race been going on? Do you remember?
Yes, the first race was in 1898, and the 116th edition of the race will be this summer. Again, it's kind of on the bucket list for most of the great sailors around the world. I mean, everybody from Ted Turner to Larry Ellison to pretty much anyone that you can name has sailed in that race at one time or another. And this year we're going to have
and Julia Vatican. Everybody who's anybody.
And Julia Vatican. And this year what will be really special is we're going to have the 5th all-women's crew will be sailing this year on Madcap. And so it's going to be really exciting after last year's 100th Port Huron race. And then this year, celebrating our 150th anniversary, the Chicago Mac race will be one of a kind and an experience of a lifetime, as Julie can attest to.
Well, Ed Worley is asking, can we watch the talks on the web? Are you going to make a recording of this so that we go ahead?
I'm sorry, Tom. We are working to set up a streaming of the event, and stay tuned.
Okay, well, at least if you make a recording of it and then put it up on YouTube afterwards, we'd even run some of it here, I'm sure. Now, another question from Alistair Murray, who's asking about this Australian-themed dinner. Does that mean kangaroo tail soup?
I don't think that there's going to be kangaroo on the menu. I'm sure there may be some Vegemite if people want to slap that on a sandwich or a cracker. But no, I can assure you our chef and our food and beverage team at the Chicago Yacht Club, along with Nancy Sindelar, has put together an amazing menu. And then, of course, you have a chance to have some drinks and smoke some cigars out on the race deck.
The race deck cigars. Julia?
Yes?
Now, I got another photo here I want to go to. This was sent this morning by the famous photographer and superfos. He's been on this show a number of times now. Daniel Forster, who's in Newport, Rhode Island. In fact, he would be on the show, Mark, except he pinged me and said that he was painting today. Apparently goes up to the Providence Art Museum and does paintings once or twice a month, maybe more often than that. I didn't know that he was a painter as well as a superb maritime photographer. And this is a photo from late 86 of your team of Heart of America. And I couldn't get a hold of you, and I'm trying to set this show up. and I couldn't get a hold of Danielle, so I went online and I could see. I should have called Ed Worley; he would have known. But the yellow stripe between the red and blue stripes, the bands on the kite on the spinnaker, identified it for me as being Heart of America, sailing off Frio in '86, because you didn't make it into '87, as did America 2 not make it into '87. And there are the fantastic Midwestern sailors with can you see the broken spinnaker pole, Mark?
Can you see the sailor in the water?
Yes. Now let's go to the sailor in the water, because there's the broken spinnaker pole.
Right.
And then up here is a sailor in the water holding on to something, the spinnaker guy or something, and they're trying to get him back. What's the story behind that photo, Mark?
I believe that was a race with French Kiss, and in which Heart of America actually had control of the race, so to speak, until I think that they broached the spinnaker. And actually, I was at Mystic last week and reviewing the Rosenfeld collection, and the Rosenfeld chase boat was behind all of this action and caught it from behind, but Daniel was obviously in the air. But it was one of those key moments where we lost some points. Certainly like today, where I didn't show up until the third round robin, so to speak. I don't think Heart of America showed up until the third round robin. And then she was a force. I think she raced against America too and did quite well, didn't she, Tom?
Well, America 2 came, we won the first round robin in October, and then in the second round robin, things started to go a little south. And then in the third round robin, we were Crutonic, and we, as you know, we didn't make it to the semifinals. And the French Kiss did. Your team, Julia, here at St. Francis Yacht Club did, and the Kiwis and Dennis, if from memory. And then, of course, Dennis and the Kiwis with Chris Dixon were in the finals of that. Mark, as you'll remember, and Ed Worley will remember, because Ed was with one of the other 6 American teams. He was with Newport Harbor's team, Eagle, and their boat was so slow, Mark, we called it what?
Beagle.
Beagle. And Dennis went on to beat the Kiwis and then to beat the Aussies and bring the cup back to San Diego, and the rest, as they say, is history. By the way, Mark, it's better late than never, and thank you for making the effort to come on as you're approaching now. I guess how close are you to Albuquerque? We can see the moving in the background there.
I can see the city skylights and skyline in the background, and I wish we would have started this program an hour later. I would have been a little bit more on time and professional about this, but I appreciate your patience, and now I know why you have those gray hairs.
No, I've had those gray hairs for other reasons. I have to put up with Julia. That's why I have gray hair, putting up with her.
He's just trying to catch up with my white hair. That's all.
Well, mine's pretty white too. But Magnus the Magnificent says, I will forever be grateful to Mark for the wonderful newspaper research he gave me in Barcelona from the period 1876 to 1881. Cheers, Mark.
That good. That's a nice.
And Ed Worley's made nice things about your campaign and so on. Now, we have a burning question, Mark. Several people have asked, why aren't you flying to L.A.? Are you afraid of flying, or do you like trains, or what?
I like both. I fly all over the place, so it's nothing about it. It's sometimes just a way to kind of try to get some work done and just sit here in the bubble car like I am right now, in the dome car, and just with my laptop and a glass of wine or a beer. And just it's just a beautiful way to travel this country. If anybody's taken Amtrak from Chicago to LA, or certainly from Chicago to San Francisco, the memories are priceless. And so I will be actually flying back to Chicago on a turn and burn for the actual event for the Heart of America reunions, because obviously, as you know, I'm going to be covering the Sail GP event in LA and then again in San Francisco. So Friday morning, I'm flying to Chicago, and Saturday morning, I'm flying back home.
Well, good for you. You're a good man to do that. And Yarvahe's asking, whatever happened to Chris Dixon? Well, after our campaign, the the BMW Oracle Racing, or Oracle BMW, whatever the hell we were called in those days, 2007, Chris retired. He's got daughters who are super good sailors. He's got a beautiful place on the North Shore of Auckland, from memory. And, you know, we stay in touch every
That's
now
nice.
and then.
Yeah.
He and I have a bit of a natter. Nice USA campaign button, Ed Worley is saying. Show us your button. See, can you put that in your camera? There it is.
Mm-hmm.
All the way with USA.
And?
Now, that's not your team. That is Julia's team. There's your team, Heart of America.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, we still got him. And then that button, Julia, is your team, right?
Yep.
Huh?
Yep.
All the way with USA. I wonder what Ed Worley's team's button said.
What I thought I would do is display, because this is a San Francisco-based show, I had to have a USA button on my Heart of America polo, which was generously given to me by Commodore Leif and Laura Sigmund from the Chicago Yacht Club. So it's a brand new, it's the first time I've ever worn this. But I just wanted to mention really quick to Magnus's comment, one of the interesting things that I have come across in working with Betsy Barrett and Bob Wiesen on the Race to Mackinac History Project is the Chicago Yacht Club did a logbook from 1875 to 1887. And basically it's newspaper clippings of America Cup races that even surprised Steve Tuccia and Magnus when they came across it, because literally it is probably the definitive newspaper logbook of the America's Cup of that era. I mean, it's literally 6 inches thick, and it's all about articles about the America's Cup and, of course, the Chicago Yacht Club. But it's a fascinating piece of history for a yacht club that has a fascinating history.
Well, I hope Steven Suchia has a copy of that, or you at least access to it.
I did digitize it. It took me 2 days. It was it was almost like the Magna Carta. But then, as Magnus reminded me, here in America, we joke about things that are 100 to 125 years old, and then he's dealing with manuscripts that are 500 to 600 to 700 years old. So we have a different concept of history here in America.
One last question, and then we'll let you go. I checked the cost of being a Michigan boy myself, to going back to Michigan sometime on the train from San Francisco, Julia, across to Chicago, and it joins up with this one at some point.
Right.
But you can do that. But Mark, it was a hell of a lot more expensive to get even the cheap sleep car. You're in a sleeper car, I hope.
Oh gosh, no.
You're not? Are you just out sleeping, sitting up for what is it? Two nights and 3 days?
It's 43 hours from Chicago. I'm in the coach, but what I'm doing is kind of what is the Amtrak version of the Eurail Pass. I have a 30-day pass where I can do 10 trips for $499. So I can go. That's why I'm kind of going everywhere up to San Francisco. Then I'm stopping at Arches on my way home to do some hiking in Utah, and then seeing some good friends in Denver. But it's a pretty neat pass. But no, I've done this probably multiple times over the last 40 years, and I love it. To me, this is a wonderful vacation and a great way to see America.
See the USA in your Chevrolet. Remember that ad?
Yes.
You should be doing that ad, Mark. I cannot imagine doing that, sitting up in a chair for what, 3 days, 2 nights, and of course I'm older and I have a bad back, so I'm really proud of you. That's great, but I'll stick to the plane, to Delta Airlines. Delta is ready when you are.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks very much for coming on. Best wishes for success down there in LA, and then on the 21st, and we'll.
We're coming into Albuquerque.
Good. Well, the timing is good. We'll let you go, and we'll see you here in the Bay Area.
Yes.
In due course. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you for your patience, Tom and Julia. Take care. Cheers.
Thank you. Mark Reed, Julia.
Yes.
Well, it worked. Nicely done.
Yeah.
Mark Reed with there's that Daniel Forster picture again of his team. He was with the Chicago Yacht Club's Heart of America, and they didn't do very well, but they did it. At least they did it. And by the way, the joke was, I've said this before on this show, he's talking about the court case. The court case wasn't that the court did not decide that Chicago was on an arm of the sea. They asked for the court to decide that, and the court looked around, the judge looked around, said, "Is there anybody here objecting to this?" in the court because I had hired their lawyer. I didn't hire him. I steered them to Harmon Hawkins, who then did represent them in court that day.
Yeah.
And the court looked around at the judge and said, "Hey, is there anyone objecting to this?" And nobody was objecting, including we, the New York Yacht Club.
Right.
So the judge said, "Why are you here bothering me?"
Yeah, I know.
And he never, as Hamish Ross will tell you, he never interpreted the deed of gift. He never amended the deed of gift. He said, "No harm, no foul. If nobody's upset about this,
go ahead.
Go race." And they'd already accepted the Royal Perth had already accepted their challenge. But anyway, the court did, to a degree, bless their challenge by inaction, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And of course, the joke at the time was, well, obviously they're on an arm of the sea. You can't drink the water because Lake Michigan at the time, like most of the all the Great Lakes, were not very clean. And of course, they're not on an arm of the sea. You got to come down through the St. Lawrence Seaway, and you got to go through the locks, and there's all sorts of definitions of what is an arm of the sea and what is not. I, having been through that with the 2010 America's Cup court case, and CNEV, Club Nautico Español de Vela, which Hamish Ross and Ernesto Bertorelli foist upon us.
Yes.
So what do we have? Thanks, Mark. Best of luck with the reunion. Alan Long is saying sailing. Joe Cool, great interview. Yeah, it did work. It did work. So that's a first to have somebody on a train. You know, I learned, Julia, that rather than having the close-up like that of Mark, it was better to have him in that PIP over us because then the jiggliness didn't make us seasick. At least not as much.
Claire says Hamtrak needs Starlink.
Well, they'll get it probably in due course. We'll see how long Amtrak's around. But I would love to take the train, but I'd want to take it in a sleeper car. I could not sit in the seat for 3 days, 48 hours. Okay, 2 days, 3 days, 2 nights. I couldn't do that. I'm too old.
I did my first trip when I was 7, and then
from where?
From Chicago to LA.
Oh, really?
And then round trip by myself when I was 9.
Round trip.
Chicago,
LA.
Yeah, and also when I was 11.
Were you sitting up in there were no sleeper car? You had a sleeper car.
I had a sleeper car.
Well, you're rich, you see. That's why you have to have a rich landlady. Rich. I couldn't do that. And I did check to see what it costs to go in a sleeper car from San Francisco to Chicago, or even Ann Arbor, as Clark Chamberlain. You go, the train continues across southern Michigan. It's way more expensive, like twice or 3 times the cost of flying.
That's twice 3 times longer.
Now look at yourself in your monitor. You've gone right on me again there. There you go, Julia. Okay, speaking of Sail GP, I had this segment teed up. I want to back it up and give you a little, because I thought we were going to have Mark on for this, but I was going to try to keep Mark on if we had a better connection, because since he's headed to Sail GP and he's been covering it for Latitude 38 now for these many years, that he might want to say some things about this upcoming event in LA. And here is the promo for that event this weekend. There's another one of those quick cuts.
Yeah.
Hot music.
Yeah.
Coming this weekend. If you're in the SoCal to a town near you, March 15th, 16th, it's as the Angelinos say, San Pedro.
Pedro.
No, we say San Pedro because we speak Spanish, but they say San Pedro.
They do.
There. Yeah, they do. So let's see what's going on. The other thing that we're going to do a full preview on that event, this upcoming event, this coming Friday. I wasn't going to do it today, but since we had Mark on, I thought we'd talk for a moment about their new chief hype officer, DJ Khaled, I guess they pronounce it, who is this guy born in New Orleans. He's a rapper. He's a DJ from a Miami radio station who's made a lot of money and is a bit of a deal. But man, oh man. Here was a photo he put out, he put out on his Insta that apparently he was proud of, getting a little sunbath in his private plane. So for those of you who were offended when I posted this on my Facebook page, that's not from a public transport. That is his private plane, and I guess he can damn well do what he wants on his plane, including take his shirt off, but then take a picture and put it on Insta.
Well,
what the kids do these days, Julia?
Yeah. He doesn't look like too much of a kid.
Now, Magnus wrote about SailGP at length today. Really good post.
I didn't read the whole thing.
And talking, well, I didn't either. I skimmed through it, but you know me and my fast reading.
Yeah.
But he talked about all the sailors and where they've gone since the America's Cup and back and forth. It's really informative, very useful blog post. We'll use some of that on the show on Friday when we do our preview, and we'll have something from the press conference and so on, because the racing is Saturday and Sunday. But I commend to you not only Magnus's piece, but there is another piece that showed up on a thing called The Athletic, which is a new...
I saw that.
Yeah, it's a new... I sent the link around to a few of you. It's a new website. New, it's maybe 2-3 years old now, and they do a lot of global sports and national sports in this country. And they did a feature piece on SailGP. Now, I think The Athletic, correct me if I'm wrong, gang, in the chat, I think SailGP, I think The Athletic is now owned by New York Times. But this was the best explanation of any sailing event I have ever seen, full stop. Extensive, long article, very well done. And it's for the uninitiated. So Russell must have reached out and got them to write this, or his PR people did. The headline is SailGP Championship from towering catamarans racing at 60 miles per hour. Gag me with a spoon. To $12.8 million in prize money is this F1 on the water. Great photos, terrific images. Here's just a few paragraphs from this long article. Humans have sailed the oceans for centuries, but as a spectator sport, sailing has barely made a dent in the public consciousness outside of the Olympics, at least. Now, that's clearly Crutonic, outside of the America's Cup, I would have said. There's no denying that it can often be difficult to make sense of what's going on way out there on the water, for a start. But the SailGP Championship has set out to prove watching sailboat racing can be thrilling, entertaining, and even get you jumping off the sofa and yelling at your TV, Julia.
Yes.
Did I put the emphasis on the right syllable?
Absolutely. It was perfect.
Okay. And another paragraph. And this is talking about the top people. This is near the end of this long article. Who, I guess, are the teams to watch? Australia, skippered by Tom Slingsby, are an ever-present threat. The Flying Roos won the first 3 seasons of SailGP before being beaten to the punch last year by Spain in the final race. Past seasons, what's that? You're waving the Spanish flag.
Yeah.
You are. So not only are you an Anglophile, a Britophile, you're also
I was really impressed with Diego.
You like Diego Botín.
I do.
I think.
And I thought he was terrific for a newbie.
Did he send you flowers or something?
No.
Is that those roses I saw last year at the end of the season?
Never mind.
Oh, you got another boyfriend, a young one from Spain. We didn't know about that.
No, that was not he.
Past seasons have seen New Zealand showing strong form, but the Kiwis, headed up by 3-time America's Cup winner Pete Burling, are struggling in mid-pack so far this year. Leading the standings after the first 3 events of the Brits with new driver Dylan Fletcher on an impressive learning curve in his first season at the helm of Emirates GBR. On the other hand, the U.S. are struggling in 11th. Taylor Canfield's crew will be looking to turn their season around at the forthcoming events on home waters in L.A. this weekend, then San Francisco on March 22 and 23. So that's somebody named Andrew Rice. I don't know if it's meaning our beloved sports British Andy Rice, or it's some other Andrew Rice. His name on the byline said Andrew, not Andy. Writing for The Athletic, New York Times owned, I believe, and you can go see it. It's online. You can Google this, and it's a long, superb article. I don't know if I posted it to my Facebook page, but if not, I will after the show. Question for Julia Vedekant: from whom does Tom get roses? Nobody. I don't get roses from anybody. Better miles per hour than kilometers per hour, Steve Atkins will say. Yeah, I think for this audience you would, but again, I think most people know what knots are, and knots are essentially the same as miles per hour. Not quite when you get in the upper, you get above 10, 15 knots, but Khalid for Sale GP is like the organist at a hockey rink, John Schaefer says. Well, we'll see. Julia, you're leaning right again, Clark.
Yes.
I don't. Oops. There's you with Mark Reed. His Skype signal is gone. Yeah. Diego is definitely not a newbie. John Emmett is saying, yeah, that guy.
He's not a newbie, but he was in Sale GP.
Well, he was, but he's a 2-time Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
He's something else.
No, he's terrific.
Rob Fry's asking for the URL. Just Google. Just Google the athletic Sale GP and it'll pop up. It came up in my one. In fact, maybe Stingray, didn't you find this article as well? Maybe one of you can put the link, please, up in the chat. And Alistair Murray says, I agree, Tom. Very well written. Great for the uninitiated. Yeah, Alistair put that in the chat that I sent it around to a few of you, and that inspired me, Alistair, to actually include it in this show. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Clark Chapin confirming it is New York Times sports reporting. And yeah, Khalid is a bit crotonic maybe, but nonetheless, we'll see what he does. Maybe he's going to bring some new people as fans, as viewers into the sport. But Stephen Suchia, thank you, Steve, is saying Tom is right. The New York Supreme Court simply decided that the Chicago Yacht Club was a yacht club contemplated in the deed of gift. It was a yacht club. He or she, I don't know if I remember if it was a he or she judge, never opined as to whether they were on an arm of the sea, because of course they're not.
Yeah, never mind.
As we later, never mind.
Proved.
Well, and that's what. Well, yeah, that's right. What the court said. Who cares?
That's right.
If nobody's here to complain, why are you wasting our time?
Right.
At the New York Supreme Court, which is not the top court, that's the Court of Appeals. Supreme Court in New York is the trial court, like what you would call the Superior Court here. Mm-hmm. Or Circuit Court in Michigan and Superior Court here. It's just the trial court. So much for all that. Who cares about all that?
Well, it depends on who you are.
By the way, John Schaefer's, there's John Albert Collings. So we took an Aussie to find us that link. Thank you, John, for posting that link. And he says, yeah, just had a quick look. It looks great for the sport. I agree. I think it's a terrific piece, as did Alistair Murray. Thought so. Fritz Mueller is saying, replying to John Schaefer, yeah, but organists at hockey and baseball are a tradition that reflects, yes, 100 years in the sports. I doubt Sale GP will go that distance.
Yeah.
I don't know. So we shall see. We shall see how that works out. Yarvahe, Jim R. flying a kite about a massive... Yeah, Yar, somebody, several people sent me that link about Jim Ratcliffe just getting trashed in the Brit papers again, and he's trying to get the Old Trafford, what do you call that? A stadium, the arena, in which what do you call that? The pitch, the ground, where Manchester United, the soccer team plays. So we'll see. Mark Reed's got a copy of the Arm of the Sea briefing. He can forward it. Okay, well, thanks for that. Okay, anything else, Julia? On all that, watch the comments. Man, you are $1 billion. See that? Man, you are $1 billion in debt. I don't need to hear John Emmett's theme song again. Mm-hmm. But $1 million, what did he say? $1 billion in debt? The ground, Gordon Smith is telling me. Yeah. There's the right term. Thank you, Gordon. Gordon is good at puns. Did you know that? He sends me puns that are so lame that I don't put them in at the end. And he says, Tom's not going to use this. And it's not because it's dirty like Ted Ryman's. It's because they're lame puns. When he sends a very erudite, intellectual one, I try to use those, even though none of us get them because Gordon is so smart.
Yeah.
And he's way ahead of us. Oh, here's the interesting. I better now go to are, now that I'm back in the slides, which is my script for the show, as you all know. Without my keynote, I wouldn't know what to say or do for these shows, right, Julia?
You'd find a way to do it.
You think?
Yes.
I wouldn't. Don Lunabos is saying, greetings from Sonoma. Ted Ryman is saying it's a football stadium, as in the soccer stadium. It's a football stadium. Okay, well, whatever you call it, it's way underwater, not literally, like Brisbane is, or was. Hopefully they're drying out up there. What's actually happening in the America's Cup with the resignation of the Commodore, who was only in the chair, Julia, for 7 months, last August. She resigned last Friday. I had the tip, and I didn't use it because I wanted to be sure, you know me, I never do a one hears without hearing from at least 2, if not 3 independent sources.
Right.
And then trying to find out what some of the background is. Well, I have a little more background today. But first, do you remember this video we played on Friday about whether the Cup could actually return to Auckland? Here was the opening bit of that.
Will the next America's Cup really be coming to Auckland? I don't think so. This story in the news again. Auckland Council have begun talks with Team New Zealand. Hope is alive. But the reality says we are simply no longer in the race. And that's because of one thing, and one thing only. The moolah, the money, the Jack Dash, the cash. We, New Zealand, cannot compete with the fat cat wallets being waved from overseas. Team New Zealand boss Grant Dalton says for it to be hosted here again, they'd need both central government backing and a private funding element. And that's where the government, as always, has a huge decision to make. The America's Cup costs a massive amount to host. It's both a cash-rich as well as a cash-costly event. Research out of Barcelona released yesterday indicated an economic benefit for that city for hosting the last Cup of over €1 billion, almost $2 billion in New Zealand money. I'm always a little suspicious, though, as to how these figures are calculated. The last Cup
Okay, we don't need to keep going on this. We played this on Friday. This is from middle of last week. Martin Devlin on what is DSPN, not to be confused with the American ESPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network, apparently very popular. And thanks to a couple of you who sent me those links. Stinger, I believe, sent that to me. So you heard what he just said, and he's not at all confident. And when we polled you on Friday, the FOSI, I don't think there was a single person who thought the next Cup would, in fact, be in Auckland.
And I think that's sad.
And one wonders then if that had something to do, Julia, you're the Commodore here, and you've been Commodore for 6 years. You're not going to resign anytime soon, are you?
I might, because it's been a great deal of work and responsibility.
Well, if we can't have the Cup here in San Francisco Bay, are you going to resign?
Maybe.
So here's the rest of this story. And this is an internal email to the membership of the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron that was sent around this weekend, maybe Monday even. Announcement, Gillian Williams, Commodore resignation from last Friday, the 7th of March. Dear members, today your General Committee met and accepted with regret the resignation of Gillian Williams as Commodore. Gillian has served on the General Committee for the last 8 years. The General Committee is Aussie and Kiwi and Brit. It's for Board of Directors. For the last 8 years, including as Rear Commodore, Vice Commodore, and more recently, Commodore. During this time, she has led the club through a significant period of change. Gillian has had significant involvement with the America's Cup. She was a selector for the Emirates Team New Zealand youth and women's teams at the 37th Cup and helped secure the donation of our Emirates Team New Zealand's Elliott Sevens by Emirates Team New Zealand. Together with our GM, General Manager, she led an incredible members program in Barcelona for the 37th America's Cup. In addition to these initiatives, Gillian has also generously given her legal, she's a lawyer, expertise to support the club over many years. Oops, let me back that up. In making this decision, Gillian acknowledged the General Committee, thanking them for their support and hard work, and wished the squadron all the very best for the future. Now, let me just read that again, because it's a weird and interesting paragraph. In making this decision, Gillian acknowledged the General Committee, acknowledged them. I mean, the board, acknowledged the board, thanking them for their support and hard work, and wished the squadron all the very best in the future, for the future. Gillian also extended her sincere thanks to the trustees for their support and guidance over the years. As a result of Gillian's resignation today, the General Committee appointed David Blakely as Commodore, who was the vice, and Matt Cole as vice, who was the rear. The General Committee, I believe he was, the General Committee will meet again soon to fill the resulting vacancies in flag officers and the General Committee. In the meantime, I'm sure you will join me in acknowledging the significant contribution Gillian has made and thank her for her contribution to the club over many years. We wish Gillian, Nathan, and Paige, her kids, all the very best for is that her husband and daughter, I guess? David Blakely, the new Commodore of the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. So, Julia, what do you think of all that?
Well, obviously there was a difference of opinion.
Was she kicked out or did she quit? What do you think?
I don't know that it would be so clear to say either one. They probably mutually agreed that she didn't want to do that, and the board didn't want her to do what she wanted to do.
Well, one hears it was a combination of things, as you would not be surprised. Partly, I think, of what you're speaking. First of all, I think she was frustrated with her board, her general committee, from what one hears, and I've heard this now from. Let me just say,
over the years.
No, just in the last little bit, from two different people who I don't think were telling each other the same thing. These are quite different, and they're not even necessarily friends.
Yeah.
Both friends of mine. Both, one is a current member of the squadron and one not. And they said that she wanted to fight to have the cup in Auckland, that the money was daunting, and her committee, who are quite a bit closer to Grant Dalton, said, no, we're going to let the team and Mr. Dalton decide where the cup is. He's headed to Europe or the Middle East, and, so be it. And she resigned. Not unlike I resigned over at Golden Gate Yacht Club when I couldn't convince Norbert Byron, the Commodore, and our board that we should run the 2021 Cup. The 2017 Cup here in San Francisco after we won in 2013. I wanted to run the 2017 Cup here.
Yes.
And Larry and Russell and our board caved to their opinion that it should go to someplace else, Bermuda, because there was $70 million on the table to run the event. So I think Ed Worley is right, too, is that she may not have wanted to deal with the political backlash or pushback about Team New Zealand not holding the cup in Auckland. So I think that is
that's also possible.
I think that's a good point. I think they will get a lot of grief again, and even more so this time. But also, as you all know, Auckland's economy, New Zealand's economy is not strong. It's still in recession following COVID. And for them to come up with the money to host it is going to be an issue. Could they? I still think they could. But I think Mr. Dalton will follow the money and will end up doing it in Europe, maybe Italy, if not Italy, the Middle East, and maybe in the Middle East where there is plenty of money.
But New Zealand will not get any of the glory for it.
And they won't get any of the glory, and the club won't get any of the glory. So there's another problem, and Mark Holland has just pointed out. They also lost their previous general manager under interesting terms. And I think Yarvahe is saying it's all sounding like KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And he's got a dollar sign and the pound sterling sign and another dollar sign. I think there's another problem unrelated to the cup from what one hears. As we've reported on this show, we broke the news, I think, before the Kiwi media did, for example, that the club is in dire fiscal straits, financial shape. They're in tough shape, and they have really had to rein in their horns, pull in on expenditure and so on. And that nice station they have up in I don't know if it's where it is, but it's up on the north side of Auckland and so on and so forth. And I think she may have just said, you guys, we got to face up to the financial situation here, and it's untenable. And a lot of members apparently are still leaving, not just because of the cup leaving Auckland, but because they're afraid of capital dues, what's the word I want? Charges.
Yeah.
Saying, hey guys, going to the whole membership and saying, not only will you please pony up, will you please help us out, but we're going to charge you now a capital charge on your monthly dues of tell me what, to try to balance the club's books. So one hears that's also perhaps a factor.
It's a real reason for lots of people. So
well, right. I mean, you would understand that, and she may have just said,
"Yeah, too bad."
You know, she may have said, "Enough. I'm going to wash my hands of this." Clark Chapin says the people with the big wallets in New Zealand, as in the USA, are, if not recession-proof, at least recession-resistant. Yeah, but you know how rich people get rich is by saving their money, Clark, as you know. That's how Julia got rich, right?
I'm so rich.
Well, you've taken a bit of a hit here of the market in the last 3 days or in the last month, but Stingray says he's guessing she left because of the club's financial situation. I think that probably did have something to do with it. But Stingray, she's a tough, hard-nosed lawyer from what, and I don't know her, but those who do say she's not somebody to run away from a problem.
No.
So I think she was at odds with her board, and I think we read that. Maybe I read too much into it, but I think reading that one paragraph.
The board pulled back when they gave Dalton.
Well, right.
The
carte blanche.
Carte blanche, right.
Exactly.
And it was because they didn't want to do the hard work.
Andrew Dolly DeVola, who's by the way, is doing a fabulous job with Sale Media and with Peter Shipway on that commentary for the JJ. We've been watching that, and I don't know, Andrew, if you're Dolly. In fact, they call him Doll. I'm going to start calling him Doll. Hey, Peter Shipway. Shiplo calls him Doll. Hey, Doll. Hey, Doll. Great job that you guys are doing. And the comments, I hope you're, as Julia always reminds us to do, go back and read the comments, because the comments in the YouTube feeds of the JJ have been so supportive. And people on here, the Fozy and the Super Fozy, have been texting me and telling me what a great job that coverage, television coverage, YouTube coverage has been and continues to be of the JJ. So bravo, Zulu.
One wonderful thing about him being here is if you are just his best friend and you're sitting there with him as he's talking.
Dolly. Exactly right.
Yeah. And it's so informal and so informative. It's fun.
Exactly. It's just, you feel like you're having a conversation.
Right.
With Peter and Dolly and the other guy, what's his name? Mike, whoever the guy is, who I think is Dolly. Is he the boat captain? Is he driving you guys around, or is he your third commentator? Is he your offsider there? But regardless, I think Julia hit the nail on the head. And I'm interested to hear you say that, because that was the reaction of myself and I think quite a few people. Fritz Mueller is saying, been following the JJ and it's awesome. But you feel like they're sitting here around the kitchen table.
Right.
You're all watching the same thing and they're explaining it to you.
Yeah.
Fabulous stuff. And they're not shouting and screaming and they're not talking nonstop. They're not talking over each. I mean, my God, the Sale GP people. I'm sorry to get animated, but it does drive me crazy. Crazy. Like crazy Ivans. Now some of you will know why I posted that on my Facebook page. That Hunt for Red October. One ping only. Vasily, one ping only. You pimp out your stuff and then your stuff is gone. Yarvahe, well said. So Doll is saying, yes, Jimmy drives and co-commentates. Glad you're enjoying the coverage. We are indeed.
Yep.
And also, Fritz Mueller says he's picking up more Aussie slang all the way. And I like they call it the heats. They call each individual race the heat, a heat, the fourth heat. You know, that's good. One ping only. Yeah, fourth heat. Really nice. And, that's what we try to do, as you know, Julia, that's what we try to do with GovCup. We've got Andy, myself, and Matt Whitfield. And we've got spotters up there on the boat because we're out on the water too. And like that shot that I had of PJ was out on North Star back in the 2000, 2003. We've talked about that before, how cool that is for the commentators, how much better it is for the commentators to be out on the water because they can see what the hell's going on.
Right. And follow up because they're right there too.
Exactly. Okay, we've beaten that one to death.
Yes.
That gets us to the last leg, and we've got a cool segment here in the last leg, speaking of Sail GP. Now, this is almost the complete opposite of what we might see with this chief hype officer who's coming to Sail GP and the Sail GP commentators who shout and scream. Sorry if I'm so crotonic.
That they have to learn golf language.
Well, I think sailing is more like golf or tennis. He's at the green, or she's up there now at the green and is addressing the ball, and you stop and listen. And in tennis, they don't talk during the point. We all can see what's going on in the point. Yeah, okay, you talk a little bit to tell them that. But man, oh man, nonstop and talking over each other, and they don't know who's the play-by-play and who's the color. And in this combo for the JJ, very clearly, Shippo is doing play-by-play, and Dolly is doing the color.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's his name?
I didn't understand.
He just told me Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy. I was thinking it was Mikey or Mikey. Jimmy drives and co-commentates, and he every now and then he'll say, "Hey, what's the course heading? What's the course axis for this?" And he'll know it because he's driving the boat and he's listening to the radio, and it's clean and efficient. And okay, enough. I've said too much. Ken DeVerne down in Auckland said, I resigned from the RNZ after 43 years over the way the club handled letting the cup go, meaning out of New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
But now it gone, I couldn't give a toss if it comes back. As now Sail GP, it runs rings around it for excitement. Maybe there aren't any other takers for the cup now. That would be why maybe he's only talking New Zealand now. No, I think he's talking New Zealand, as we said on the show the other day, Ken, as a stalking horse. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
That's my opinion. Okay, let's get back to the last leg and this Sail GP video. Watch this video because it is the antithesis, Julia. It's in slow-mo, and it's got classical music backing it. I kid you not. Listen carefully, and I think you can even hear where they've dubbed in water sounds along with and behind the music.
was some race.
And here comes the logo. Because I left it on the video. I always look at the end of the video so we hopefully don't end in black or in gray or something.
Yeah.
But did you see Claire's comment? Vice Commodore Harrington said, unidentifiable music, piano noodling, but so much better than the usual. Well, Claire, you know why they do that, so they don't get a copyright strike.
Yeah.
On using some, Moonlight Sonata or something equally nice. But wow, was that nice, Julia?
It was.
What?
I kept thinking how refreshing it was because the water just feels refreshing.
Exactly. This could almost be your go to sleep music video. You put that on your TV instead of watching reruns of Perry Mason. I think you'd be better off.
Perry Mason puts me to sleep wonderfully because I've seen all of them before. Don't have to wait.
Ryman likes it. Ted says that I like slow-mo with cool music. It floats my boat. Great video. I think that sums it up very nicely. Gordon Smith, he has these clever comments. I bet USA are the most comfortable at this speed. Well, we'll see. If there's only 7 knots of breeze this weekend is what is the forecast I saw, and 3 knots on Sunday. I think Magnus saw the same thing. Yeah, okay. Music by Khaled. How do you pronounce that? I got to go look that up. No, Dolly, I don't think it was by that guy. And do the Canfield and Buckley parts look sped up? Stingray's asking. And Jody says, wow, he doesn't like it. This makes me want to slash my wrists. Yeah, I think, Alan Long, I think you're right. It's a little too long. But, that's just because we're used to running videos that are 2.5 minutes on here. They had to ruin it with Stevie and Todd at the end. Well, we know why they did that, Dolly. We get that. Dramatic. Listen to the President Emeritus here. Dramatic, evocative, beautiful, so good without those bloody commentators. Clark Chapin, who's a musician, his wife is Karen is a superb musician and pianist and choir director and so on, saying bravo Zulu. Joe Holtzman agrees, very nice. And with PM, you already know who wins. Yeah, John Emmett's been trying to get reels to under 30. The reels are the big thing, Julia.
I know.
These reels, there are people, and I haven't quite found them addictive, but I do get on and start to see Facebook reels or Insta reels.
I get caught in them.
And that's just what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Get caught there and see the ads. Music across visual media matters. There's some alliteration in that comment by Fritz Mueller. When was the last time the ticker tape breaking evening news made you feel at ease?
Well.
And now with the 6 o'clock news. Yeah, and our attention spans are getting a little short too. Okay,
Yes.
that speaking of short, that gets us to the D block here and the end of the show. When Julia's favorite part, whiskey, tango.
Oh, yes.
Foxtrot. What the frig? Speaking of music, you see the segue here. I positioned this one purposely to get us from music to music. This is from Vice Commodore Claire Harrington. Beethoven's Ninth. It was the bottom of the ninth. There's a little baseball metaphor here. It was the bottom of the ninth, and the bassists were loaded. I think she sent that for me.
I'm sure she did.
Knowing that I'm a bass player, I think she didn't quite dedicate it to me. Thank God, because I've never been loaded when I was playing the bass, at least not that I remember. Now, Julia, you got to overlook the Shiza word here.
All right.
Shiza, you don't need. I don't know if this is photoshopped or not, but I thought it was hilarious. And my wife if she found a store like that, she would be in there all the time. Finally discover where my wife shops. That came from Greg Phillips in Australia. The Shiza store. Oh, man. And now a teacher told me not to worry about spelling because in the future there will be autocorrect, for which I am eternally grapefruit. That came from Pricey, David
That's
Price.
a good one.
Hey, Pricey, if you're watching, or Christian or Olivia for that matter, give Harry a pat on the back for all of us. We're cheering for him.
Right.
Hope his shoulder, don't give him a pat on his shoulder, because that, whatever the shoulder is apparently causing him real angst and real pain. But they're still hanging in there in 4th place, and I'm sure they're going to come good here in the remaining, 5 races. So keep at it. One more, and this only in Australia, Julia. Look at this. Little surfing music. What seagull would hang? And the fact it's not a seagull. Peter Stevenson put in the comments what bird that was. Look at that again. You got to look at that. Look at this bird hanging on.
Yeah.
What looks like for dear life.
Yeah.
Not wanting to let go.
Why is he there? He may have gotten caught.
Maybe
with
that's
his
maybe that's
talons.
The talons got caught in the flag. Well, everybody gets caught by the Aussie flag, maybe. That came from Peter Stevenson, and he did tell me what bird it was, but I don't remember now what he said. This has been sent by several of you, and that is a good way to sum up today's show. The soup of the day, bourbon with ice croutons. Julia, need some bourbon in your coffee, or are we done now?
Oh, we haven't started.
Oh, we haven't started? I thought we were wrapping this show up.
No. Here we are.
We get the bourbon cream here for you, Julia.
Just a tad.
The bourbon cream. Buffalo Trace Distillery.
Oops.
There's a good pour.
A good pour.
That'll put you to sleep.
Good.
After the show.
Good.
Thanks to Mark Reed. That was a fabulous segment that he did. And he, sulfur crested. There it is. Greg Phillips has got it. Sulfur crested. Would be impressive if it was a kangaroo flag surfing. Flag surfing. I like that. Okay, enough of all that. Julia, you like to say at the finish line.
Yes. Do not forget.
You are.
Like, follow, and share.
Look at that graphic is croutonic too. I think my graphic card is croutonic. It takes the video from one computer and puts it into the other computer, into the broadcast software. But I mean, look at the color. The green's gone. See the green on the slide? But
Anyway, it is true. If you don't make a regular habit of reading in the comments, it's really joyful.
Well, it is. The comments are great, though, and you're welcome. If you're watching this in replay, leave a comment. We go back and read them. People love to see them. And thanks to all of you who do support us with $1 or $2. In fact, if you send us some money now, I'll go get a better video card that's so that the colors are not croutonic going from the one computer to the other. That was bad. It's green. It's what's happening is it looks like a green screen.
Oh,
it looks like there's a green screen. It's taking out the green colors or the yellowish green in those slides, and we'll see what that is. Tom Ogletree, thank you. Fritz Mueller, thank you. Thanks to all of you. Give us $1 or $2. And thanks to everybody who let us use their audio, video, their visuals, and the audio for today's show, including all of these folks. Thank you, Mr. President Emeritus Alistair Murray. Thank you, Julia. Final thoughts?
Have fun sailing with Lily tomorrow. That should be
today.
fun.
Yeah, I think they're sailing out of the Sandy.
Now. Yeah,
the Sandringham today. Thanks to Stephen Suchia for joining us. You know what, Julia? While I've got Stephen on here, I am going to show you, I think, on your camera. You see that poster on the back wall? That's over there by camera 2, over my shoulder there. I'll point to it here over my shoulder in the back. That's what we call camera 2. And you see what Stephen doesn't know this, what's posted right next to that camera? That's that America's Cup racecourse poster that Stephen produced and sent to us. And Stephen, I just want you to know it's framed and here in Studio B. We appreciate that very much. And have fun in Chicago when you get up there. Okay, that's it for us. Thank you very much for joining us. On Friday, we'll have, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Kimball Livingston, Staff Commodore of the St. Francis Yacht Club, talking about the rise of private youth sailing teams. It'll be interesting to see what John Emmett thinks about that as well. And Vice Commodore Harrington and others of you who will hopefully can join us on Friday. In the meantime, have a great rest of your week. cheer on for everybody at the JJ, including Dolly and including and especially Harry Price, our super Fozy, our Fozy by now. And we'll see you on Friday. Sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.